Hello everybody and welcome back. I've come on today, with it being Boxing Day. I wouldn't normally be on, as you know, but we had a photograph sent in and I wanted to get it to you as quickly as possible. It was taken on Christmas Eve in the northwest of Scotland and it was around 11 p.m. at night. Now the strange thing about it is, in exactly the same place, on exactly the same day, 4 years ago in 2014, a very strange experience also happened in the same area. So I thought you'd be interested and I wanted to bring it to you. So on the northwest coast of Scotland, as I said, not only are there many lochs, there are also many accounts of strange creatures and paranormal experiences that happen to people around the lochs themselves. Now on land as old as time, which it definitely is, it's no wonder strange anomalies pop up consistently. But on this one lone loch, we have experiences that are exactly 4 years apart to the day, which is very unusual. So the image you can see was sent to the leading British Bigfoot researcher Adam Bird, and it was sent in by a gentleman on behalf of his friend. And although impossible to say exactly what is in the image, it is very interesting nonetheless. The image was taken in an area where there are numerous British Bigfoot and dogman accounts. Whilst waiting for analysis to come in, we share the picture with you here to get your view on it, on what you think it could be. Now the image was taken at 11 p.m, as I said, on this Christmas Eve, when most of the UK population would either be at home or in the pub. And this is miles away from any house, let alone a pub. So I doubt this was any human reveller of any kind. Now in the image that is lightened, that you'll see on the website, there's a very canine looking figure, shall we say, but that's just my opinion. Now there are no steps or banks behind the fence, which is around 6 feet tall. So whatever is looking over the fence would be around 6'5" in approximation. Now the gentleman who provided the image provided some background information on the photograph. Now he's not making any claims here. He's merely sharing a very strange image caught last night in Scotland. Now a friend sent me this, and he lives on the west coast of Scotland, and his house is in the middle of nowhere, he said, and it's surrounded by forests. He said when he moved to walk towards whatever it was, it turned its head and he never saw it again. It just vanished out of sight. He said from where the eyes are to the ground is about 6'5". I don't know if he's messing with me, he said, or not, but I do know him, and he isn't the kind of man to mess around like that. So I thought you'd find the image interesting. What do you think? Now, as I said, there are other accounts in the area. And on the 24th of December, 2014, which, as I said, is 4 years to the day, a photographer, he was a wildlife photographer, was visiting the lot, and he was setting up his equipment when he's, to his surprise, on a cold winter's day, way out at the loch edge, the man heard what could only be described as voices and giggling, even though there were no people around, and he looked everywhere for people playing a joke on him. Now he's out in the wilds of Scotland in freezing conditions, but he never did find anyone. In fact, that's why he chose to photograph there in the first place, as he never sees another person whenever he visits the area. Now the voices moved from area to area with ease, and he was so spooked he fled because something started skimming stones across the ice in front of him. But there are also other accounts in this area, and this is wood knocks and shadowed and screamed at. Well, this is a local story of a young lad who had also had the feeling of being watched, and as he's made his way out of the area, he heard wood knocks and a scream. And I also came across an account from around Easter 2000. And it was from a lady, and she said, "My husband and I were driving north past the loch for our first weekend away together. And as we drove alongside the loch, I saw to my amazement something that looked to me exactly like the pictures I'd seen of the Loch Ness Monster. A long neck and a head sticking out of the water at the front, with two humps behind it. It was moving quite swiftly through the water. I was completely astonished. I'd never heard of anything or any monster in the loch. I actually said nothing. I kept quiet, thinking that my new fiancé would think I was completely mad, if I announced I could see a loch monster. So I just watched in silent wonder. And a couple of hours later, we stopped for lunch at a pub. And there was a tourist information desk, and available were leaflets. And one of the leaflets was about the loch. So you can imagine my feelings when I read, the loch is said to be home to a monster like that of the monster of Loch Ness. It does, I said. I saw it. I yelled beside myself with excitement. Needless to say, my fiancé thought I was crazy, but I'm sure I really did see what people call the monster of the loch. Now, there's another account of feelings of being watched. This seems to pop up a lot in this area. And it says, I was camping on the southern end of the loch. And it was a few years ago now. And it wasn't by choice, let me tell you. We were out hiking, and we'd been forced there by the wind and the rain as the weather had turned really bad. And there was no campsites anywhere. And to be honest, we were exhausted to the point where I was starting to get worried about my girlfriend. She was cold and shivering badly, and her speech had started to slur. So I wanted to get her warmed up as quickly as I could. And trying to think as fast as I could, I was trying to see any shelter, anywhere, somewhere I could just get a fire going and get her warm. After a lot of looking around, we settled for a small clearing in among some holly trees a few metres from the shore. There was just enough room for a fire and a tarp plus the tent. So I put it up the tent, I stuffed her in the sleeping bag, and I went off to get firewood to make some hot food and tea. I had a strange feeling of vulnerability while I was collecting wood and cutting it. I kept stopping. And as I was doing it and looking around me, I couldn't see anything, but I could feel it. I had a feeling that somebody was about to walk up on me out of the trees, as if I knew that someone was in my personal space, but I couldn't see them. I wasn't scared, but I just felt that something was about to happen at any moment. I was expecting a gamekeeper or a poacher or something to come out and say, "Oi," or talk to me, or another person out hiking, but nobody ever came out. Anyway, it was cold and wet, and the going was slow. Eventually, my girlfriend came out to find me, and she came and sat with me while I finished splitting the wood, since she admitted she felt uneasy being left on her own back at the tent. I didn't tell her about my feeling of being watched, and I didn't want to spook her. We went back together and resumed our camp routine and set up for an early night. And I got the fire going, fed us both, and made hot drinks, and we settled down to try and get some sleep. That night, I had to get up in the middle of the night to take care of some business. I walked across the clearing and went behind a holly bush, and there I got the most intense feeling of danger that I have ever felt. It just washed over me, like I'd walked somewhere I should not have gone. That night, it was very dark, and I accept that the dark has an effect on your brain. I get it, but I felt an immediate and urgent need to get away from that spot right away. So I cut short the business I was taking care of and pretty quickly walked back to the tent, where I stopped, I sat outside and I caught my breath, and for a while I just sat there to see if I could see or hear anything. Nothing much happened that night, and it was a good little camp and free, so for the next few nights and days we stayed in that same spot, and it was okay within the camp. But I got that same feeling whenever I went near that holly bush. It was not until we left the site that I realised the effect on both of our moods that it had. And within minutes of leaving, we felt uplifted and happy and realised that there had been something wrong back there. Now, the story does not really translate that well into text, and I know that, but I'm hoping that it might trigger other people's memories, and we might get some more stories of the scary, unexplainable things that happen up there. And as I said, also reported in that area, there are strange encounters of people being followed, feelings of complete dread, feelings of being shadowed, accounts where people are shadowed and rocks are clapped in the bushes and the trees. There are also 2 wild men reported running over a road. The gentleman in that case said as he was driving he saw a deer cross from right to left, at which point he saw a man who was around 7 feet tall, I think, off the top of my head, completely hair covered, that ran after that deer. As he looked back to the right, he noticed a smaller figure that had stepped out of the trees that was the same as the naked wild man, but younger and smaller. And that creature set off after the wild man. So it is a very strange place. So if you're up at the Lochs at any point and anything happens to you, or if you recognise what this Eyeshine is and can tell me, get in touch and enjoy your week. Hope you're not all back at work tomorrow, but some of you will be. So you'll have the New Year's break coming up, won't you? So Yuletide blessings, everybody, and have a fantastic holiday season. So until next time, thank you very much. Good night.